Hey guys, in this video, let's take a look at how we can create a hand with a specific gesture for our character. So maybe you're sculpting something, you're sculpting a character and you need the hand to be something very specific, right? So if you are, super advanced, you could probably do it in the same scene with the character at the same time. But a lot of times it's a really good idea to isolate your model just so you can focus on that specific piece, especially if it's somewhat complex, right? So in this case, let's assume that we need a hand in this position for a character that we are sculpting in zBrush. So what would be the fastest and the most efficient way to get to this place, right? So I think what we should do is let's go to Lightbox, and in here we have something called Mannequin. There's a folder in here. And in that folder, you will see something that's called human hand. If I double click on it, and I'm going to say no, right? I'm given this base mesh to start with, which is made out of zSpheres. Now, when I press A on my keyboard, I can see a preview of the mesh that it will create in the adaptive skin, right? That's this button right here. And we can also control a few different things like density and resolution. But what we want to do is we want to grab this base mesh with zSpheres, and we just simply want to sculpt our hand or move the zSpheres in the proper position. So in this case, I'm going to use this as my reference. All right, so let's just kind of start moving these around and mimicking the reference. So if I click once, you see joints appear, and you can just drag these, right? So I can drag this joint maybe forward a little more. I can drag this one to be maybe angled. Let's angle it maybe like this. And this one, I'm just gonna kind of fold it in. So by clicking, it's really cool because then when you click on the bottom one or each one, you can see the chain, and you can see which chain is gonna be affected, right? So for me to bend this one, if I look at the base links, they're already kind of in the right position. I just simply need to curl kind of the second and the third link. So for that, if I click on one, I can just start kind of bending it in and then just move it this way. And then I can maybe make it a little bit straighter, and let's go ahead and do the same thing with this one. Click on it, bend it, get this one and bend it in. And if I hover over and get the yellow ring, I can move it into a better position. All right, and right now I want to move this circle. So I'm going to come down here and click on the bottom one. And I'm going to use this link to straighten it out, right? So next I'm going to do this one, same thing. Click on the bottom, move, bend this, click on this one, bring this around. And that works well. Go ahead and do this one. All right, and then once you get your fingers to the reference that you have, or maybe you're using the same one, we can again press A to see what the preview might look like and see if we like this, right? At this point, you could still adjust anything that you need. But let's say I am happy with this and I want to move forward with this, right? What would be the next step? The next step is going to be to transform this into something called adaptive skin. So when I click on it, you can see a skin tool was created. Now if I click on it, I'm given this as a base mesh, which I can start sculpting on, right? Let's go ahead and inflate this just a little bit. So it's a little thicker. And I'm currently in 256 Dynamesh. I'll just go ahead and re-Dynamesh, and I can polish the entire thing all at once. And hold down the Shift key, I can smooth out anything else that I need. Okay, and very quickly I'm getting to the point where I have a really nice base mesh to kind of start sculpting with, right? So now if we grab our tablet, we can start paying attention to other details. For example, grab the move brush and make this a little bit smaller and kind of start let's go ahead and start shaping this a little more, right? We know that the wrist is going to be a little skinnier here. We know that it's going to be something like this. If we wanted to get rid of this line, I'm just going to redynamesh and smooth this out. Just kind of doing it in a circular motion. And I can pull this up. Okay. Very quickly, I'm getting to the point where I have a really nice clean base mesh for this. And now, again, looking at the reference, you can see that all of this is a little bit too much, right? I do need the base to be kind of very large, but then the middle here naturally is going to be much smaller, right? It's going to get from large to kind of small, so it's going to go from... All right, we also know obviously from hand anatomy that you don't have 3 links on the thumb, right? We actually only need 2. So how do I get rid of this thing at the end? Well, I could do it by simply cutting it, or we can just file it down, right? So to file it down, we can grab something like, let's grab something like trim dynamic, okay? And now what I could do is I can just literally just file this whole thing down. I don't need any of this extra stuff for my thumb, right? Very cool. I can very quickly get rid of it, and I can smooth this out to keep it nice and smooth. And now I can start kind of flattening out certain elements, right? So for the nails, for example, I can start flattening this out. And we can control our intensity and see what makes sense. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for this one. And this one. All right, I can redynamesh, and that's looking pretty good. Once we get kind of the basic planes in place, we can start sculpting further. So one of the things you'll notice is that you still might see some rings connecting from the zSpheres, and if you redynamesh and just take your time and smooth those out, you can get rid of that. You want to make sure you don't see any of those rings. We like the joints, that's fine, but maybe we don't want to see those circles or those rings, right? Very cool. Now let's go ahead and start introducing maybe, I'm not happy with this finger here. Let's just start introducing some more petting, right? So for that, I'm gonna grab something like, let's do clay buildup with a soft alpha. And looking at the reference, we know that there's going to be a petting here for the hand. And look at this line here. You can see that it's nice and straight, right? So that's important. All of this is going to be straight, but at the same time, it's going to start kind of building this up. And then here you have some petting here as well, right in this area. So let's do that. Naturally, if you look at your own hand, you'll see there's like a triangle that's forming here. So we want to keep that. And then also depending on how you're holding your hand, you might have, you know, if this is really intense, you might have like a little bone showing here as well. So let's emphasize some of that. Redynamesh, smooth this out. And it's kind of subtle, right? It's not very strong. But it's there, okay? And let's add more padding in these areas here. So all of this here is going to have padding as well in your natural anatomy, something like this. And then you have like a little indentation in the middle, right? Very cool. Redynamesh, smooth this out. On this side, if we wanted to, we can start building some of these kind of joints or bones underneath, running from your fingers towards the wrist. We can build that in. And redynamesh, smooth this out. Definitely smooth out the very ends, so you have kind of a nice blend, right? But it's very suggestive, so it's like I could see that it's there, but it's not super visible. Now to to work on the fingernails, we can just grab our move and kind of start shaping them a little bit better. So I'm gonna bring this down. Let's go ahead and do that to all of them. Just kind of create a space where the fingernail is gonna go. And at this point, if I'm going to start using Damien Standard to create the fingernail, one of the things that obviously going to need is a little more resolution. You can see this is a little bit too low to hold the lines or wrinkles, right? So let's just make this a little bit better. Alright, now if I wanted to start adding some of those lines, for that let's switch this to 512 and let's do Redynamesh. If I turn my floor on, I can see that the hand is actually super small, right? So let me just scale this up actually, so my tools kind of make a little more sense, right? As far as the resolution goes. So now since I scaled this up, check this out. I'm in 512, it's already Redynameshed, but because I scaled it, and if I go back to draw and Redynamesh, look at my points. It just went from the previous number to 1.3 million, right? Which is interesting. It's the same resolution, but the scale has changed. So everything point-wise has changed as well. That's really important to understand, because when you're sculpting, if something is larger in ZBrush, you have a lot more control, right? Because now you have more points, you have more resolution. You can smooth things out, and it's going to behave very differently. So that's super important, especially if you're new, to understand that. So now, because my resolution is at 512 but my scale is higher at 1 million points, if I grab something like a Damien Standard, I can start creating my nails by using Damien Standard, and it's going to hold the detail very nicely, right? So for the nail, we know that it's going to be something a shape that's similar to this, and then we let me do a little better, and then we know that the nail doesn't go straight down. You don't want to do this. You want to do more of a taper in, so it's kind of tapering in, and then there's a curve here. So these two are curved, and these two lines are kind of going in, right? So that's important to understand. And then if you want to maybe make this a little more round on the corners, we could do that, so it feels a little more natural. And now to touch this up, you can grab something like the move and make that a little smaller, and you can adjust this and make it feel a little more natural, right? So you have a nail like this. And then another thing that's important is that it's never flat. You always have a little bit of a round shape on top. So that's going to make it look a little more natural. And then, right now, this here needs to be more like this. And you can clearly see that all of this looks kind of strange, right? But all of this is going to look a lot better once we add some more folds. Let's just finish the nails first. So I'm going to do the same thing for these. Alright, once you finish your nails, the next thing we can do is we can start drawing in some of these sharp lines, right? So let's go ahead and grab Damien Standard, and looking at the reference, let's just create a line for our hand, right? So we'll do one across like this, and that's kind of gonna go all the way down here. We can also see there's really strong creases on each finger, right, of our brush, and we can of course Redynamesh, and let's just create kind of very similar strong lines going all the way across. All right, we can smooth this out. Let's add some more lines. So I'll add one here. I can add one here. I also want to make sure we have strong lines for the folds of the finger, right? So that's important. And of course, same thing goes for these guys. All right, once we add our folds, it starts to look better and better, right? To build the knuckles, I'm gonna grab my Damien standard. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to switch it to add. And in circular motions, if I start creating some volume, right, you can see that it's not perfectly straight and it feels very natural. So it's a really cool trick for knuckles. And you can do the same thing at the ends of the folds, right? You can just kind of build some volume, but you can see it's doing it a little bit in kind of a uneven way, and it breaks up some of that flatness, or that kind of a really smooth look, right? And feels a little more organic, a little more natural. So I could do the same thing here. Again, just doing it in kind of a circular motions, just adding little knuckles. And this finger definitely needs more love. If you look at your own fingers, you can also, another brush we can use is, we can do standard with, we can do dots, and we can use this Alpha 60. And what we could do is with this brush, we could just kind of do something like this. Just go along on each side, and that will create a nice texture as well, right? Just a little bit. And then we can smooth this out so it's not so strong. So we can do something like that. And let's do the same thing here. And then again, if I Dynamesh and kind of smooth this out, you can see how it starts to blend in a little more, but you could still see it, right? You can decide how much of that you like to keep or not, but all right, so this would be a really clever, quick way to make a hand in ZBrush that maybe you need, you know, something very specific. And of course, the more time you spend sculpting, the better it's going to look. But this would be a really cool workflow to create a custom hand gesture for your character. All right, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.